I'd like to call the Monday, November 17th, 2025 regular assembly meeting to order. And with that, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Lynn,
Here.
Vice Mayor Stanton Gregor,
Here.
Member Martin, Member Mucci,
Here.
Member Newman,
Excused.
Member Schwartz,
Here.
Member Valentine.
Here.
Thank you.
And with that, we have the voluntary pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Moving on to the, we have now approval of minutes of the regular assembly meeting of November 3rd, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, although unless any questions or any changes. Okay, seeing or hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Stanton Gregor,
Yes.
Member Martin,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Mucci,
Yes.
Mayor Lynn,
Yes.
Member Schwartz.
Yes.
Okay, those minutes are approved as they stand. We have item 4 on the agenda, amendments and approval of the meeting agenda. I understand that there are some amendments to be made. Member Mucci.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to amend the agenda as followed. Add the swearing in of Tristan Enriquez as the new police officer immediately after item 4 of the approval of the agenda. Do you want to do them all at once or individually?
Yes,
All at once?
please.
Okay. The second item is to move Senator Sullivan's report from item 11A to take place immediately after Tristan's swearing in and before public hearing. And the last one is, of this list, is to remove item 15C, letters of interest from John Haverlick as the school board will appoint their new board member.
I would second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, with that, I'll move forward then, and with, go ahead, Member Valentine?
No.
Do-
Yeah, thank you,
Oh,
Mr. Mayor.
Member Mucci?
Under 17A, I'd like to throw on under council discussion items, just a question or two regarding cell phone towers.
Okay,
Thank you.
so let's say I would put that under 17, let's go, 17A on it.
Yep.
And with that, is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor again? Say
Aye.
Okay, and we will add that to the agenda.
Yep.
And with that, I'll move on to the swearing in of Tristan Enriquez as the new police officer.
Chief Kerr is going to come up and say a few words before we swear Tristan in.
Come on up here, Tristan. So this young man started out as a dispatcher for us who wouldn't really say too much. He served in the dispatch role for a little bit over a year. And then decided to test for a police officer, became one of our new hires. Had to work really hard at push-ups, so I'll just throw that out there. I'm sure he can do a lot now after the academy that he attended, the Alaska Law Enforcement Training Academy, 17 weeks of intense training. They cover all kinds of laws, firearms, driving, you name it, what it takes to be a police officer for Petersburg. So I want to congratulate Tristan on graduating number 3 in academics in his class. So.
Please raise your right hand. Do you, Tristan Enriquez, solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Alaska and the ordinances of the Petersburg Borough, and that you will honestly, faithfully, and impartially discharge your duties as police officer for the Petersburg Police Department to the best of your ability? Thank you. Can you please sign here? Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tristan, and good luck on your new job. We much appreciate you being here.
We always like when locals like to stay local, so that's awesome.
Yes. And with that, I think we're ready for Senator Sullivan if he's on the line.
Okay, I'm going to unmute you. All right, just give us a few minutes and we will get this up and running. Okay, I see Senator Sullivan, you're on in a separate screen there, so you now should have permission to talk as well.
Yes. Give us just a moment, thanks.
Yes, no problem. Helen, am I sharing the correct screen?
Yes, we should be all good to go.
Okay.
Okay,
Hey, Helen, I think she's not sharing the right screen. We're not seeing the outline.
Sorry,
Senator
Becky, I was
Sullivan, are
wrong
you-
about that. Can you go ahead and share my screen?
Okay, yes, sure thing. Okay, go ahead and share your screen, Helen. You should be able to put your screen up on ours now. Perfect, thank you.
right.
Okay.
Perfect.
Are you
Good.
on the line, Senator?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, we certainly can, and thank you for doing this for us. I know it's just about past bedtime back there, but this is okay. We appreciate it. And with that, I have a couple people in the audience in addition to the assembly that I just want to recognize. One is the school board superintendent and the school board chair, and also our hospital CEO. And we have other folks in the audience, but I definitely want to recognize those. And with that, I'll turn it over to you for a presentation. Thank you.
Great. Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much and congratulations. And the whole assembly. By the way, congrats also to Officer Enriquez. That's really wonderful. One of the provisions of this bill we think is going to be really important for law enforcement. I believe Sherry Klein on my team should be there. I think
She is here in the audience, yes. And we
In the
had a couple of discussions today. Thank you.
Good, and hopefully you're seeing one of the great daughters of Petersburg on my screen right there. That's Helen. And Bob, congratulations for having such a great daughter and then winning your election too. This is a Helen Martin, Bob Martin, father-daughter dynamic duo tonight on this presentation.
Thanks for hiring our English major.
Helen is doing a great job. You guys would be very proud of her. I work her hard, but she's doing great, and she makes all Alaskans proud. So, anyways, she's going to help out here. By the way, congrats on the hospital. I know the Petersburg Medical Center is, Bill, I think you're in the audience. Sarah, I believe, is on the line too. Helen, is that right? On our team?
Yes,
We-
that's correct.
Okay. So you guys probably know Sarah as well. So I have a great team. So we're here to do what we've been doing across the state. Whenever I'm home, and then honest to goodness, I do about one or two of these PowerPoint presentations a day, almost, because we're working really hard. And so I want to thank the Assembly. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, everybody for enabling us to do this presentation. What we're doing is we have been doing a deep dive to the extent we can on the budget reconciliation bill that passed in July. It's gone by a couple. Budget reconciliation is the process by which this bill was passed. We've rebranded this recently the Working Families Tax Cuts Act because it certainly has a lot with regard to that. I like to call it the Alaska Opportunity Act because, as I think you'll see, and I'm very confident, there's no state in the country that did better than the great state of Alaska on this bill, on this law. And so what I've been doing is going through it and then taking questions from folks. There's been some ads and stuff out there that try to describe this bill in a negative way. We're trying to set the record straight with the facts, and then getting input from everybody. When this passed, I sent out a really long letter to thousands and thousands of Alaskans for the same purpose of just going into details. This letter is 27 pages, I think, and has a detailed table of contents on different parts of the bill. So, hey, if you're interested in the Coast Guard element, the healthcare element, the energy element, the air traffic control element, you can kind of take a look at this letter. We can get you those if you haven't. We sent these out to a whole bunch of folks. And so the purpose really is to go into some of the details and then take your questions or comments or suggestions. So we think it's pretty exciting. I believe that this bill, and hopefully you'll see it, if this was 10 different bills in different sections, each one of these would be a big deal for Alaska, a big deal for our country. The fact that it's all one bill combined really makes it kind of a comprehensive bill. But we've been doing a lot of these presentations just to let people know what's in it. And then very importantly, and really kind of the key of all these presentations, we've probably done, geez, I think I'm over 60 now, is we want to work with everybody, the assemblies, the elected officials, the private sector, schools, to implement this, because I think you're going to see this has enormous stuff that we've been trying to get done for a long, long time in Alaska that we were able to get done in this bill. So with that, I'll kick it off with the first slide. Hopefully this will work. There we go, Helen, good. So look, now some of these areas might, you might be thinking, well, this doesn't matter too much to Southeast, but I think you guys all know that when our economy's growing statewide, it really helps everybody. So the president often talks about this bill as unleashing America's energy. What it really does, actually, it unleashes Alaska's energy. And when you look at this slide, I'm not going to go through every slide in detail, but when you look at this slide, these 4 areas, we've been trying to get things done here for decades. What am I talking about? ANWR, the National Petroleum Reserve of Alaska, Cook Inlet. This bill, it's a 10-year time window on the bill. It has mandatory lease sales in all of these areas. You see almost one or two, one a year, one every 2 years. This is really, really important because we did have kind of a hostile approach to energy development from the previous administration, the Biden administration. And this now says, hey, you can't use executive orders to shut down resource development in Alaska. You have to do lease sales in these different parts of our state. They're mandatory by law. And then very importantly, and this matters for everybody, we're finally, some of our states have been trying to get done forever. We have shifted the federal state split starting in 2034 where we're going to get a big chunk of the revenues from these federal lands. Some of you might know in the Statehood Act, the compact's supposed to be 90-10 for Alaska, 90 to us, 10 to the feds. The laws never enabled us to do that. Cook Inlet right now, believe it or not, is about 75 to the feds, 25 to us in terms of revenues. All that's going to shift, where we're going to be getting in all these different areas, 70% of the federal revenues. I'm sorry, 70% of the revenues from these different areas of resource development. So this is going to be huge for us. The feds will get 30%, we'll get 70%. And look, this matters for the whole state. Because of these provisions and some of the other things we're seeing, we're finally starting to bend the decline curve in the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. You know, we're at about 500,000 barrels a day. The estimates, I was just on a call about an hour ago with one of our energy companies. We're probably going to be about 750, 800,000 barrels a day. We finally bent the decline curve. That's great for everybody. That's the revenues for Juneau. That's the revenues for our teachers. That's the revenues for our state. That's really exciting. And then when we start getting the vast majority of the revenues to us, 70%, that's going to be really exciting. So these are gigantic wins. You know, some people, well, maybe they're not impacting Southeast. I think they're going to impact the whole state. It's very exciting. And when you combine them with these two executive orders that we got from the Trump administration, this one was called Unleashing Alaska's Extraordinary Resource Potential. It's really long. It's quite good. We know that because our state, our office wrote a lot of it. But we wrote it with the governor, with the Trump administration. This is all about, and Sherry, hopefully you have copies of this for the assembly, for the mayor, everybody to see. This whole thing is about federal agencies. We, the federal government, want to move out on Alaska. We want to help them. We want to grow their economy. And then, so take a look at this, because this is just a home run for our state. This was issued day one when President Trump got elected on his inauguration day. We're the only state with our own executive order, which is really exciting. And then in April, hopefully you guys have seen this one. This is another one we had a huge, a lot of input on. This is the executive order from the administration called Restoring American Seafood Competitiveness. It's all about unleashing the potential to help our fishermen in communities like Petersburg. So the bottom line between these executive orders and these provisions, I think you're going to see more than anything, this is really a jobs bill. This whole thing is going to be a jobs bill. So let's go to the next slide. This still goes into some other resource development provisions. There are provisions that go to national timber harvest. They don't mention the Tongass or the Chugach, but the the Forest Service will have a target of 250 million board feet per year for 10 years. That's a lot. Mr. Mayor, I know you have a lot of experience in this area. We think that can't be done without significant timber harvest from Alaska. There's a lot on critical minerals here. You see that. And then one, I just want to mention, you know, people have been talking about it for almost 50 years. I just spent a day with a bunch of senior Taiwanese officials. There's a new financing program at the Department of Energy that's all about helping finance big energy infrastructure projects. And the number one project that is in line to get financing funding for as part of this new financing program in this bill is the Alaska LNG project. Now, I know people have been talking about that for almost 50 years, but and it's not going to happen tomorrow. But boy, oh boy, I've been working on this for a long time, way before I was a senator. And I think we're very close to getting this done. I think we could be even seeing final investment decision because of these kind of provisions. Senator Murkowski and I, in the bipartisan infrastructure bill, got federal loan guarantees for this project. But this would be the biggest LNG project in the country, maybe even in the world. And if we get this done, low-cost energy for 100 years to Alaskans, to our communities, to our military, and then export this to our allies, I just think we have a whole new state. Anything is possible. So this is really, really exciting stuff. I think within the next couple months, I'm hopeful we might have a final investment decision from that project. And boy, oh boy, will that be exciting. So anyways, this is all the resource development side for Alaska. I think some of you know we've been trying to get some of these things done for decades, and they're all in this bill. And again, no state did better on the energy development side than we did on this bill. It's very exciting. Next slide. So this is just for all businesses, all families. You might recall that the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that lowered tax rates for pretty much everybody. Partnerships, pass-through small businesses, C Corps, families, middle-class families, pretty much everybody got a lower tax bracket. That was the key element of that bill. That bill, those tax rates were expiring at the end of this year. So had we not passed this bill, everybody, and I mean everybody, would have had a very significant tax increase. Middle-class families, small businesses, you see some of these numbers here. The estimate, that would have been a $4.5 to $5 trillion tax increase on the American people and Alaskans. We didn't do that. We passed this bill, so we kept those tax rates the same. So there's not, right now, it has essentially the same levels of taxation, but we avoid a giant tax increase. However, we did take this bill in certain areas that we were hearing from people that were really important. And one, if you look at these several bullets here, the child tax credit and child dependent care tax credit. So this is child care for families, for small businesses. This is a very generous way in which we can help families, balance between work and taking care of their kids growing up. So a huge benefit for working families in the child care and child tax credit component. Next slide. And then the one of the elements of this bill that we think is really important, it does have newer tax relief for working families. So you see that no tax on tips, no tax on overtime for our law enforcement, for our service economy, for our tourism economy. We think that's going to be really, really important. Really important provisions for small businesses, full year expensing for capital investments. A lot of small businesses and Alaskans in Alaska were really pushing for that. We have housing challenges in every community throughout our state. I know Petersburg does, but you name it, Fairbanks, Anchorage, Kodiak, everywhere has big affordable housing challenges. This takes the low-income housing tax credit, expands it, and makes it permanent. That is a great way for communities to help build affordable housing. That's in there. This new thing called the Opportunity Zones, it was in the 2017 tax cuts. That goes to communities that have higher rates of poverty. Investors can get a significant tax reduction for investments there. We expanded that program, which was primarily focused on urban areas and big American cities, but we think there's a giant opportunity to do that in Alaska. So again, a whole host of tax relief areas that we think are going to spur small businesses and put more money in the pockets of working families and stretch their budgets. It's exciting. Next slide. This is just a quick slide. There were some provisions or claims that this cut taxes for very wealthy Americans, and then it was going to cut Medicaid. None of that's true. This, like I said, it keeps the rates at the same level. No one's getting a huge tax cut in terms of their brackets, except on some of those provisions I just mentioned for working families. But, and I'll get to the Medicaid and healthcare part for the state of Alaska. There's no cuts at all. We're gonna do quite good. Next slide. Now, this one is really exciting, and it's made no news. And for Petersburg, I think this is just super exciting because we're going to work with you guys. I'm meeting, by the way, I'm meeting with the Commandant of the Coast Guard tomorrow. And I'm the chairman of the subcommittee in charge of the Coast Guard. So I wrote a lot of this bill, but this bill has the biggest investment in the Coast Guard in U.S. history. Now, we all love our Coast Guard. A lot of you are fishermen. I know you love our Coast Guard. Sometimes they can be a little bureaucratic, but one of the things about the Coast Guard, similar to the Marine Corps, you know, I just retired last year after 30 years in the Marines, is, you know, the Coast Guard and the Marine Corps have this ethos, hey, we can do more with less, and don't worry, we'll suck it up. But you can't do more with less if your, you know, cutters are 50 years old and your helicopters are 50 years old. And at a certain point, you got to do more with more. And so we made this gigantic investment in the Coast Guard in this bill. Look at these numbers. They are off the charts. 16 new icebreakers. And, you know, you might see that $300 million. That was a provision I pushed for really hard. That goes directly to Juneau, to home port the U.S. Coast Guard icebreaker, the Storis, which got commissioned in August, which is a great ceremony. I was there. By the way, that's bottom right picture. That is the Storis, beautiful icebreaker. But 22 new cutters, those 16 new icebreakers. I'm trying to get 3 more of those home ported in Alaska. Those medium Arctic security cutters. 40 new helicopters, C-130Js, just a giant investment. And then you look at the money for shoreside infrastructure, $4.5 billion for shoreside infrastructure, piers, housing. So look, this is nationwide, but trust me, a lot of this is going to come to our great state. And we should work together on trying to get more of this coming to Petersburg, because, you know, I work with Mayor Jensen on making sure that we didn't lose a cutter there in Petersburg. But I think there's huge opportunity for our state to get a lot more, not just icebreakers, but some of these OPCs and FRCs in terms of Coast Guard. So really, really exciting. Going to grow the Coast Guard in Alaska. It's going to make our fishing fleet and other operations safer, having more coastie there, and having state-of-the-art equipment and infrastructure for our state. Next slide. This is another one that's really important to us. Some people are like, hey, that doesn't seem that important, Dan. The southern border is 4,000 miles away. But this bill has enormous resources to secure the southern border. The president's already doing that a lot. You see illegal border crossings have dropped 99% during the first year of the Trump administration. After the open border policies of the Biden administration, you see those numbers. But this is going to secure the border in terms of infrastructure, in terms of new law enforcement funding, in terms of new technology, a new immigration judges. And this is important to us, and I'm sure you guys are seeing it. I hope you're not seeing it too much, but I'm sure you are. Everybody's seeing it in Alaska. You know, the fentanyl flood that has hit our state is just horrendous. The last 2 years in a row, we have had the highest overdose rates of fentanyl overdose in the country, Alaska. We have Mexican drug cartels in our native villages dealing this poison, and this is going to really, really help secure the border. And we hope to decrease the supply of fentanyl. We've been working, Helen's done a great job. We launched this strategy called One Pill Can Kill, where we have been going to the high schools and the junior highs and doing public service announcements, trying to get to the demand side to young Alaskans, saying, hey, don't take this stuff. If you don't know it's in a pill, or you're smoking a joint, it could be laced with fentanyl. This can kill you. So we need to do it on the demand side, which we're trying to do to get the word out on how dangerous this is. We have a whole website dedicated to this, but this will help on the supply side. And I'm very convinced this is going to start to save lives, especially in our state. Next slide. This is another thing that's happening that we're going to benefit from. This bill has a very significant buildup of our military. As you guys know, it's getting to be a very dangerous world out there. A lot of this, is going to be national shipbuilding, more infrastructure, but there's certain things I was able to get in this bill that are going to come directly to our state. One, the president has launched this Golden Dome initiative. It's missile defense for America. And I've been the lead senator on missile defense because Alaska is the cornerstone of missile defense. We have all the radar systems that protect the whole country. We have all the ground-based missile interceptors that protect the whole country. And this Golden Dome initiative, I've been working directly with the White House, the Pentagon. I have the bill that reinforces this. So a lot of that money dealing with missile defense will be coming to our state. You see something else there? It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a really good start. I was able to get $115 million to start to reopen the naval base at Adak, Alaska. If you look at a map, and you guys are fishermen and you've probably been out there, this is one of the most strategic pieces of terrain, 1,100 miles west of Hawaii. A lot of people don't know that Adak is that far west. And we are working to reopen that and put our military and Coast Guard out there to protect our fishermen who are that far out, and to push back on the very aggressive Chinese and Russian incursions into our airspace and into our waters that we've been seeing at a very rapid rate. So this is also very exciting. The shipbuilding component, we are way behind the power curve in terms of the U.S. Navy. Our ability to build ships has really atrophied. We want some of that shipbuilding capacity in our state, but overall, this is going to be another really important provision for our military, make our country safer. But when you're talking hundreds and millions of dollars of infrastructure coming to Alaska, it's going to be in the billions. This is going to be good for our economy as well. Next slide. This one is also really important. This has we're making a generational investment in this bill on air traffic control reform for the country. You see that $12.5 billion for ATC reform, but a lot of that is already starting to go to the state. This slide's actually outdated. We got about 170 million that's already come from this bill to upgrade our smaller airports with better weather reporting, these AWAS systems with better infrastructure. We need it. You saw that bottom bullet. The president, in a joint press conference with the Secretary of Transportation, announced 174 new weather stations for Alaska in terms of aviation for our pilots. Now, we need it. Take a look at that first bullet. This is why we really need it. And, we all know someone who's been injured or unfortunately killed in crashes, but we have the highest crash rate in the country by far, and the highest fatality rate in the country by far, which is why a number of years ago with the FAA, I launched this thing called the FASI Initiative for Alaska, the FAA Alaska Aviation Safety Initiative. This bill is going to supercharge the money we're getting to make Alaska's aviation safer. And I think this component is going to really help save lives. Next slide. So I know Phil, I think he's in the audience, Petersburg, the medical center. You guys, I'm hearing great things. I can't wait to get back and tour the new facility. But I want to go into a lot of detail on the part of this bill that is dealing with healthcare, because you've probably seen there are these ads on TV that are, just to be perfectly honest, run by Senator Schumer and some of his far left affiliated groups saying, hey, this cuts Medicaid, it cuts Medicare, it's going to hurt Alaskans. None of that is true. Okay, none. These are the facts, and we wrote a lot of this bill on this stuff. So let me go into a little bit of detail. There's no changes to Social Security. As a matter of fact, I'll get to it in a couple slides. Social Security beneficiaries get a very significant tax break on Social Security for our seniors, which is going to be great. There's no Medicare changes at all. The only Medicare change is actually a doc fix for 1 year. You guys are familiar with that. That's an increase, but nothing else. Now, Medicaid. There are significant reforms in this bill to Medicaid. The Medicaid reforms, however, focus on states that use what are called provider taxes and state-directed payments. These are complicated schemes, to be honest, that states use in a manner in which they tax providers like hospitals. That enables them to get a much bigger Medicaid amount from the federal government, and then they rebate the money back to the hospitals. It's kind of a giant scam, and it has been utilized in a way for states to get hundreds and hundreds of billions of additional dollars. You guys know Medicaid is a joint state federal program. The state pays a certain amount, the feds pay certain amount. The reason I go into this, the state-directed payments and provider taxes are going to start to be limited in this bill. And this is something that as far back as President Obama, this has been a bipartisan approach. Hey, we got to limit this abuse of provider taxes because that's not the way the system's supposed to work. So that is a major reform in this bill. However, there's one state in America that has never used provider taxes and never used state-directed payments, ever. So we have not participated in kind of this a little bit shady dealing on getting more Medicaid dollars to our state. That state is us. We have not done that. So we are not going to be impacted by these major Medicaid reforms. As a matter of fact, you look at that third bullet, that the four major Medicaid funding streams that exist in Alaska, what we call traditional Medicaid. So that's the traditional match. Believe it or not, we have one of the lowest matches in the country, and I'm going to get to that. We're about 51-49. The feds pay 51%. The state pays 49%. The lowest in the country is 50-50. We used to be 50-50. Some states are 80-20. Feds pay 80. We pay 20. Or the state pays 20. So the traditional stays the same. Tribal, which is the native health organizations, the federal government pays 100% of the Medicaid for them. The expansion population, that's 90-10. The feds pay 90, the state pays 10. And then CHIP, that's Denali Kid Care, that's about 75 fed, 25 state. None of that is going to change for Alaska. So if you see things, if you're reading things, that somehow there's big cuts to Medicaid, that's just not true. For our state, it's not true. Now, if you look at that middle bullet, there are work requirements in this bill. Now, you remember during the Clinton era, in the late 1990s, Congress and the Clinton administration passed welfare reform work requirements. Those were 30 hours a week. These are 20 hours a week. It's either work or volunteer or going to school or training. And, but there are very significant carve-outs for that. As a matter of fact, in rural areas, both for the Medicaid and SNAP work requirements, if a rural area has unemployment higher than 10%, there's no work requirement. And I believe Petersburg actually would qualify on that. But so the point of this final bullet down there is, but if you are a, let's say a 28-year-old young man, you're getting the Medicaid expansion population, you're not on one of the exemptions, so you're not Alaska Native, you're not a disabled individual, you're not someone with dependents, you're not a senior, you're not a veteran with a disability, you're not in recovery. There's a huge amount of exemptions. So let's say you're none of those, you're able-bodied, you're a single male, you get Medicaid. This does say, hey, you need to work or volunteer for 20 hours a week. We think that's a good idea to try to lift people up, to encourage them to work. Now, if that individual says, hey, I'm not going to work, and they lose their Medicaid, that wouldn't be considered a cut. That's just a decision. So these are the provisions. Let's go to the next slide. I'll give you a little bit of the sausage making that happened here, that turned something that was a challenge into something that I think is going to work out really well for Alaska. So I mentioned earlier, we have one of the highest federal matches, one of the lowest FMAPs in the country. So an FMAP is the federal match in Medicaid. It used to be 50-50. The state paid 50% of Medicaid, the feds paid 50%. That was the lowest in America. I have been fighting for 10 years in this job to get that changed because I just didn't think it was fair. Wait, Alaska has the highest healthcare costs, highest healthcare delivery costs, and we have the lowest Medicaid match? That just doesn't seem right. The reason we do is because the Medicaid formula, the FMAP formula, is based on pure per capita income. That's it. So we have a high per capita income, so we had a very low FMAP, even though we have such high health costs. So I got in this bill, I was very proud of this. I went directly to the president and the speaker and the Senate Majority Leader to get Alaska's FMAP increased to 65% from about 50%. That would have been about $200 million a year for additional Medicaid dollars to Alaska. No, that was in the bill. I was excited, got it signed off on. Unfortunately, as you go through budget reconciliation, either side, Democrat or Republican side, can come in and go to the parliamentarian of the Senate. Hey, I believe this provision violates certain budget reconciliation rules. It's called the Byrd Rule. It's actually a law. And one side or the other can try to challenge something in the bill to strip it out. And unfortunately, Senator Schumer, the minority leader of the Democrat side, he went after my Medicaid provision. And he stripped it out. They actually went after this rural hospital reimbursement fund that we also got in the bill, and they stripped that out. We fought it. Unfortunately, they stripped that out. It was a real tough thing because we had been working on this for almost 10 years, and I think it's very fair for Alaska. So, next slide. What do? We didn't cry in our, cereal. We said, hey, we're gonna come up with a bigger idea. So we took this Rural Health Transformation Fund, which at the time was $25 billion. And I said, look, if my state is getting this Medicaid FMAP provision stripped out that had the sign off of the White House and the Congress, I want something more for Alaska. We doubled the size of this Rural Health Transformation Fund, and we worked the formula to make it very, very focused on rural communities in rural states. So that was the kind of sausage making that happened with regard to healthcare. I am very confident that you guys, I think you guys have been involved, and Phil, you might have some questions, but the state of Alaska has now taken in applications for this rural health transformation fund, which every state's going to get $100 million, and then you apply for additional funding depending on how rural and how innovative your approach to transforming your healthcare system is. The state just submitted its application to CMS. They're going to choose certain states and the amount of money that they're going to be getting for the next 5 years. I'm quite confident that we'll be getting, at a minimum, probably 200, maybe even 300 million a year as part of this fund directly to our state. This is a great opportunity for us to transform some of the big challenges that we have in delivering rural health care with this fund. It's not going to solve everything, but $1 billion to $1.5 billion, which I think we'll be getting additional money to our state to really innovate. And I think it's very exciting. And so if you've seen ads on TV, hey, this bill cuts Medicaid, it doesn't. This bill is going to actually, for Alaska, going to get a lot more. It's an exciting time, and it's a great opportunity for all of us to work together. The other thing we did, that Rural Health Transformation Fund wasn't going to kick in until 2028. And my team and I went back to our leadership saying, no, I got my FMAP provisions stripped out by Schumer. I want the Rural Health Transformation Fund to start ASAP. So that is going to be awarded by the end of this year, and it will start to kick in here in the beginning of January 2026. Very exciting. So let me just wrap up with a couple more things. As I mentioned, these are common sense Medicaid work requirements. Again, I think Petersburg, with the unemployment rate that's fairly high, I don't think I think there's going to be a full carve out for both Medicaid and SNAP requirements for your community in total. Next slide. What we did do, though, also is we really focused on protecting vulnerable communities. We have a very, unique state in a lot of ways. So you saw there on certain groups, certain parts of our state, certain areas with high unemployment rates. Seniors, again, there's a very significant tax deduction for Social Security that we think is very exciting. $6,000 per individual, $12,000 per couple to put more money in the pockets of seniors. So these are all things that we have been focused on. Next slide. Continuing on this issue of vulnerable communities, we have been the state that's really revolutionized telehealth access. I know that's important to the hospital in Petersburg. We were able to get some of the things that we got during COVID made permanent when you look at that first bullet. And then there's also SNAP work requirements, but they're very similar to Medicaid, and there'll be a lot of opportunities for us to get what's called our error rate down, which we have a very high error rate on Medicaid, which we need to fix, but we even got carve outs for that. Let me just end with a couple more important slides. Next slide. This next one, it never gets any attention, and I got to talk to my team. We got to unfortunately update this slide since we've been given this presentation. Our state, or our country is now facing a $37 trillion debt. Last year, we spent more on interest on the debt than we did to fund our military. When great powers hit that inflection point, think about it, the Romans, the Dutch, the Spanish, that's when they start to decline. That, by the way, that interest, look at those numbers, 950 billion, that didn't go to build a port in Alaska. That didn't go to build an icebreaker. That didn't go to build a road or a hospital. That went to bondholders, many of whom reside in Asia. We have to get our act together fiscally, or we're going to be passing on a fiscal nightmare to our kids and our grandkids and our great grandkids. This bill is the first bill in a long time that starts that process. It's not going to solve everything, but you see that number over 10 years that cuts about 1.2 trillion. But the big issue that I think is going to happen here, you can't cut your way out of a $37 trillion debt, but you can grow your way out. In like the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, I think this bill is going to really spur strong economic growth with the different provisions that I've covered, especially for our state. And if you have strong growth, that's when you start to bring this debt to GDP ratio down, which is really the important measure. Next slide. So look, this is just a little bit more of the sausage making. I mentioned that Senator Schumer tried to successfully stripped out that FMAP provision for Alaska, which was a real gut punch for us because we've been working on it for a long time. But anything that was good for Alaska in this bill, they went after. I don't know why. All those provisions, even certain small provisions that were important to, charitable deductions for Alaska whaling communities, they went after all of it. We fought them, beat them back on almost everything, but it was kind of exhausting when these guys are going after Alaska so much, but we won most of those battles. Final slide. Look, like I mentioned at the beginning, this is the really important point. This bill, hopefully you get a sense of it on so many different areas, I think is going to be a real strong bill for our state, for our economy, for healthcare, for the Coast Guard, for air traffic control, for businesses, small businesses to grow our economy. But what we need to do is we all need to work together on this. There's a lot of provisions that are going to be the states leading on, federal agencies, we're all over them right now to help with Alaska, but our private sector, our boroughs, you guys, and so we need to work together. One of the reasons that we're pitching this to so many people is letting people know, hey, these are the opportunities. Petersburg, look, are you interested in a new Coast Guard cutter? All right, let's work together on that. We got 22 new ones coming. We got $4.5 billion in shoreside infrastructure from this bill for the Coast Guard to develop out places to put more assets or to build up assets that already exist. So it's exciting, and that's why we're presenting this to everybody, let people know what's in it, and then look for opportunities to work together. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I know I went on a little bit long, but there's a lot here, and we welcome your questions, comments, suggestions, and thanks again, everybody. And I look forward to getting back to Petersburg soon to see all of you, see the new hospital, and hopefully things are going well there, and we can work together on these issues.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. With that, we sent you some questions, the ones related to the medical field. With Sherry's help, we're going to have a conference call with your staff tomorrow, so I'll pass those by. And with that, if I can, I'll ask first if the Assembly has any questions related to the bill. Okay, Member Mucci?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Senator Sullivan, for spending some time with us tonight. Thanks for your service to the country. This bill covers a lot of stuff, and we've been hearing a lot of stuff about it over the last several months. And one of the things I was curious about is that, and one of your PowerPoints that you talked about, it talks about growing Alaska's economy and good paying jobs. It talks about mandating 40 long-term timber contracts to harvest 250 million board feet of timber sales around the state. Have the markets improved so that there is, we can get value for the timber that's harvested? Thank you.
Sure. So the provisions there unlike the other energy provisions that I went into that talk about NPRA, talk about AMR, and talk about Cook Inlet. The provisions in this bill as it relates to timber, it doesn't directly talk about the Tongass or the Chugach.
Right.
What it does do though, is that it mandates, and you guys have a lot of experience on this, it mandates that the Forest Service do 250 million board feet per year across the national forests of America. And that's a big number, as you guys know. And we think that there's no way that they can actually hit that number without having significant harvest done from Alaska. And it also mandates these longer term contracts that give investors who are gonna timber mills and things like that in our state, obviously we don't have many more left, that gives them longer term horizons by which to plan and invest. So we actually think this provision, although it doesn't cite Alaska specifically, we actually think this provision is going to be really good for our state. In the 40, the long-term contracts and the big number in terms of board feet, we think is going to positively impact us. Some of you might know the new head of the Forest Service was in Alaska this summer. One of the things I've been trying to do, well, I've done as your senator, is whenever someone gets confirmed, doesn't matter, Obama administration, Trump administration, Biden administration, I meet with them. I spent a lot of time with them. I was doing that today in DC. And then I strongly invite them to come to Alaska and to meet with all of you. So we had the Forest Service chief in Alaska a couple months ago. He was all over Southeast. I'm trying to think, Helen, do you know if he made it to Petersburg? I can't remember.
No, he wasn't in Petersburg.
Did he come to Petersburg? I can't remember.
No, he wasn't, Senator. He was in Wrangell.
Yeah, I know he was in Wrangell. So I think he's got a lot of innovative ideas, and this is a mandate that I think is going to help our state significantly in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other assembly members? Member Stanton Gregor? Oh, go ahead, Member Short.
Yeah, as a challenge, thank you, Senator Sullivan. Yeah, it's a real challenge here. Our lumber companies have either gone under long ago or have pivoted to other things. There was a mill going in Wrangell. There was a mill going here. We all, those of us that have been around remember it. That's a challenge in itself. Just companies that are around that have the equipment that, can bid on those things. Logging itself is a lost art. The young guys don't have the same skills that they used to because it's been gone for decades. So I'm just throwing that out there when it comes to bidding on timber sales. Thank you.
No, there's no doubt it's a challenge, and there's no doubt that, you guys know it better than anybody. We've lost a lot of industry. We've lost a lot of jobs, but you got to start back somewhere. And we think that this bill does a good job. You guys know you're a lot of experience in this. 250 million board feet nationally. That's for the public lands that the Forest Service is in charge of. That's a big number. And we think in the new head of the Forest Service, I had a great meeting with him. Matter of fact, one of my staff members toured the state with him. I couldn't tour all over the state with him. But they have a lot of innovative approaches that they want to work on with different communities. I know Wrangell's very excited right now on a number of things that they're working on. Some of our native corporations they're looking at. They want to do some possible exchanges with the state of Alaska in terms of our forest lands. So there's some innovative ideas, but you're making a very good point, which is you know, we got a long way to climb back from, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't start. And this bill is going to provide a lot of certainty that people need. Remember, this is in the law. So if you have a change of administration and someone comes in and says, oh, we don't want to do this, they can't do that. It's in the law, and it's in the law for the next 10 years, and that's pretty exciting.
Thank you. Member Stanton Gregor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Senator Sullivan, for being here. Before I ask my question, wanted to recognize when I first met you at a Chamber of Commerce dinner years ago, I immediately respected your commitment to fighting the opioid crisis in Alaska. I was pleasantly surprised that was a conversation topic we were able to have before dinner, and appreciated your continued efforts in the battle against substance abuse in Alaska. And secondly, early 2020, when Mayor Jensen was out of town, I was acting in his behalf on a call regarding COVID testing, and I really appreciated your help and that of the rest of the delegation in helping, taking seriously the need for rapid testing at the time. So in short, I've appreciated your responsiveness through the years. My question for the evening revolves around healthcare for small businesses. To use Petersburg, we have approximately 550 small business licenses active. Many of them are small businesses, such as myself. For healthcare, a family of four with a silver plan, not the gold plan, currently pays around $1,000 a month, give or take. With the Affordable Care Act subsidies set to expire, many families will see a jump from $1,000 to around $3,600 a month, which will be therefore unaffordable for many families. We have a whole harbor full of small businesses. Many of them, of course, have employer-based healthcare, but not all. When I thought about that on a small level, that's impacting Petersburg potentially on that level. I imagine the numbers are great throughout the state. And this is not anecdotal. My family will be experiencing that. We'll be living it in real time. I jokingly say to my wife, like that our premiums going up to $3,600 a month, that I spent the bulk of my early adult life making less than that per month. And lucky I'm in a better spot now. Anyway, please know that I appreciate your efforts for Alaska. Your commitment to battling addiction, AK, is noticed, and I appreciate it. And even the best bills sometimes can have things fall through the cracks, and I think healthcare for middle-class small business owners may be one of those things, and any efforts you can put towards that, I would continue to appreciate very much, Senator. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Assembly Member Stanton Gregor, and I appreciate it. And I remember the discussion on opioids. You know, we're still really focused on that. You know, it's kind of turned into this fentanyl challenge, which I talked about. I think this bill will have an impact on that. I certainly hope so. And you know, you guys understand it because you're in elected office. Sometimes you come into office and you have an idea of what you want to focus on. You have a certain experience in areas that, you know, make you want to focus on those things because it's a passion. And then other times when you're meeting with constituents, you listen and you have a whole new awakening, right? For me, that was the opioid and addiction challenges, the mental health challenges. My team and I have been very, very, very focused on those. They're all interrelated, as you know, especially among our youth. But I didn't know a lot about that. And I had this meeting very early on in my tenure here in the Senate with these 9 women from Alaska who were all recovering addicts from opioids. And they had rough, you know, they went through some really rough times, but they were very courageous. They were all in recovery. And that one meeting, I was just like, man, I gotta understand this better. I gotta get involved in this. So we've been very involved in that for a long time. And I just have so much respect for people who, you know, go through the challenge of addiction and then have the courage to get into recovery and fight that. And so I'm always open for ideas on that, but I'm still very focused on it. And it's led to, you know, the fentanyl issue, we're very focused on that, the mental health challenges. So we're gonna continue to focus on that. So thank you for mentioning that. Look, we are really, and Sarah's on the line right now, we are very involved in the middle of it on these premium tax credits that are gonna expire. So, you know, you can kind of point fingers and everything. I don't want to do that. Those were tax credits that were put in a budget reconciliation bill when the Democrats were in control of the House and Senate and White House. They had those expiring at the end of the year. You know, that they could have extended those, they didn't. However, you're raising a really good point that I think that the impact of those premium tax credits going away is going to be very significant, particularly in Alaska, where, you know, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, it didn't make premiums affordable. We had premiums go up higher than any place in the country. And so I am working right now in a bipartisan way with some senators, coordinating with the White House on looking at the possibility, and I hope we can get this done. It's going to be a challenge, but on the possibility of extending those premium tax credits, but also reforming them. They have been subject to a lot of abuse in a way that they weren't intended. The one beneficiary of those premium tax credits has been the insurance companies. As you know, Jay, those don't go to individuals. They don't go to you. They don't go to small businesses. Those premium tax credits go directly to the insurance companies. So we're looking at reforms, but trying to extend those. That needs to be bipartisan here. I've been working with some Democrat senators for the last several weeks. One of the ways in which we got this very unnecessary government shutdown to end, which should have never happened in my view, was some of the work that I was doing with some of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle on trying to get a bipartisan solution to the issue that you just raised. So I'm hoping we're going to be able to do that, to extend and maybe reform these premium tax credits, and then look at a broader way to maybe get that money, and it's literally hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, and it goes directly to the insurance companies. And if you look at the stocks of the insurance companies since Obamacare passed, holy camole, those guys are all doing great. My view is that money should be going directly to small businesses or Alaskans directly. But these are some of the ideas that we're working on. Sarah and my team, we've been working around the clock. I'm hopeful that we can get a solution, because you're right. The impacts on small businesses and others in our state has the potential to be very substantial. And, you know, those kind of numbers that you just trotted out I've been tracking them very closely, and those are very, very significant, and we're trying to make it so that kind of giant cliff, because it's a cliff. These premium tax credits just end at the end of the year, and that's a cliff. And you're giving examples of how impactful that is negatively. We're trying to do something that would make it more gradual and have reforms that you wouldn't have that dramatic premium increase. So stay tuned. We're putting a ton of time and effort and brain power into this, and I'm hoping that we're going to have some kind of result that can be helpful.
Thanks so much, Senator. I really appreciate your time.
Yep, thank you, Senator. I'll give a chance to, or either to Mr. Hofstadter or to our superintendent of schools or the chair of our school board, if they have any questions or comments. Go ahead, if you go up to the microphone there, please.
Yeah, hi, Senator Sullivan. This is Phil Hofstadter. We met before.
Hey, Phil.
Hey, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate your input. Any support for the F mapping? I know that's something that's not well understood. I know that you work really hard on that. So I really appreciate the effort you've done on that. And the healthcare transformation bill, I've been talking about this quite a bit and really excited about the opportunity and looking at how we can transform healthcare in the region. The thing that I would probably just echo with the transformation bill is supporting for capital infrastructure for
Yeah.
healthcare. That's something I know we've completed our first phase of our new facility up here, but we'd love to continue keeping that moving forward. And infrastructure is I know near and dear to you, so something I would really love to see some support on as well. So I have a lot of other questions, but we'll challenge that tomorrow too, or talk about that tomorrow. So thank you.
So, hey, Phil, can I ask you a quick question?
You bet.
Were you able to get kind of in shape, and I know you were talking to Sarah, some of your ideas from Petersburg, because you guys just, went through the construction of the medical center, into the commissioner of HHS, when they
Yeah.
put out their RFP on the application that they were going to put forward to CMS. We're tracking it very closely, but we want to make sure, communities like Petersburg, through you and others, were able to put forward some of the big innovative ideas to the state that they could include that in their application to CMS. Were you able to do that?
Yeah. Actually, state's been very supportive on their end. A lot of this is just seeing what happens more than anything else, and what the state's plan and what they'll support, and making sure that we can capture that. The funding notice was very quick. The state turned around super quick in getting that back, and I know clearly infrastructure wasn't supported as much, so I'm just making a point of that, and I know that there's a lot of support behind there, so it's more of just a wait and see kind of a situation. But since I had you, I'd love to maybe advocate for that if it does come down to that there's a restriction there.
Yeah, I think if you've been talking to Sarah on my team, the CMS, and we didn't support this, we've been working really closely with them. They had put limits on new construction for that money, right? And again, I think we're probably going to get, our state, we're probably going to get about $200 to $300 million a year. I'm hopeful. Over 5 years, that's a lot we can do to transform our state's healthcare delivery system. So they're going to be restrictive on new construction, but as you know, I think that's going to be a somewhat flexible when you look at updating existing construction, or paying for equipment, or paying for software, or making it more efficient with regard to payments on medical records, things that you have probably budgeted for, that we think the fund would be able to cover. And then issues dealing with workforce, which we think is going to be really important and could be a big workforce in the healthcare sector I'm talking about, could be a big component of the funding that we're going to get back from the feds on this. We worked, as I mentioned, after that FMAP provision got stripped, and trust me, you know how important that was. It's still kind of just kills me that got taken out, because we've been working on that for a long time. You understand, it's just the FMAP seems so unfair that Alaska has one of the lowest FMAPs in the country when we have the highest healthcare costs in the country. It makes no sense. So I was able to get that very much increased, and then it got stripped out of the bill by Senator Schumer. But we're going to reattack that, because I've convinced everybody. I went directly to the president, because they were like, wait, why is Alaska getting this giant bump up to Medicaid from the feds? And I said, because we have the lowest FMAP in America, and we have the highest healthcare costs, and that makes no sense. And I was able to convince everybody, got it in the bill, and then got taken out. But we'll reattack that one I'm hopeful some at another opportunity.
Again, thank you for your efforts on that, and I'm thankful for your time today.
Thanks, Phil.
Robin or Sarah, do you have some questions?
Good evening, Senator Sullivan. This is Robin Taylor with the Petersburg School District. We've met a few times when I was on the Secondary Association, representing the principals through that group. So it's good to see your face again.
Good evening, Robin.
Yes. In the presentation tonight, I didn't see anything that was specific to education, and obviously that is where my concern is. I feel very strongly that our teachers are doing the most important job in the world as they are setting the foundation for all other future jobs. I just want to express my concern with the reductions in the Department of Education. And there are so many unknowns out there that are already impacting districts across the state in trying to plan for our budgets for next year. Excuse me. Specifically in the area of the title funding from the federal government to the state, as well as special education. So if you could, I know that could be a whole nother hour plus long conversation, but if you could just hear the concern, and I'd just love to hear any feedback you have in regards to the rumors that we're hearing that there may not be title funding available next year.
So, look, the provisions, that I mentioned in this bill that go to, one of my areas of focus as it relates to education. And by the way, I'm a huge fan of everything you do and our teachers, and just appreciate how important your job, as you mentioned, is trying to get more revenues to the state. As you know, a lot of the state related issues in terms of funding, it comes almost all of it comes from the state. I think when I was looking at some numbers, I think 6% of our total education budget in Alaska comes from the feds. The rest, as you know, comes from the state. So those first couple slides that are dealing with more resource development, to be perfectly blunt, more oil in the pipeline, which is happening, right? We're going to start turning that around. And the state of Alaska getting a higher share of those revenues from the different resource developments. To me, that just helps everybody. That helps our legislature in Juneau when they have to make decisions on funding teachers, funding teacher pay. What I try to do is just make it easier for all of them, because the pie is bigger and you guys can have more funding for our legislature, and that's going to happen. That is going to happen. Like I said, they're estimating in the next 3 to 4 years, turning our 500,000 barrel a day production of oil to about 750, maybe even 800,000 barrels a day. That's good for all of us, in my view, especially our teachers. The other thing, and I know you guys cared about it, it was something that we put our shoulder into. It's not really teachers today, but it helps with, I think it's going to help you with recruitment as we pass the Social Security Fairness Act, which is, our teachers and other particularly law enforcement, first responders in Alaska were penalized by the retirement system in a way that I always thought was very, very unfair as it related to Social Security payments. It's a complicated issue, but I know you're aware of it. And we fixed that at the end of last year, and our retired teachers and firefighters and first responders are now getting a much nicer bump up in their Social Security because we were able to do that. On the other issues as it relates, so we think that was a really big win for our teachers and others. And I've heard from a number of them who said, although I'm retired, we think this is going to help with recruiting because the way in which our teachers really, for the last several decades, in my view, got treated very unfairly as it related to the state of Alaska retirement and Social Security, we fixed that. And that was exciting and we think important. On the Department of Education, you know, the big idea that they have is to take a lot of the funding and get it to the states more directly, which I think is a good idea. The rumors that we've heard, you know, the congressional delegation, we recently wrote the Secretary of Education on some of these cuts we heard might be coming, particularly as it relates to Native related programs. We wrote Secretary McMahon on that. So we'll keep an eye on it, Robin. I don't know to what degree some of those are going to be, they're going to try and completely cut them. I haven't heard that yet, but if you're hearing things, let us know through Sherry and others. We'll keep a close eye on it. But to me, if there's a way to get, you know, more of the federal dollars at the Department of Education directly to our state and our teachers, I think that has the potential to be positive for the state, but we'll see how that plays out, and we're keeping a close eye on it.
And Robin, if I could just add one thing, this is Sarah in Senator Sullivan's office, and this is unfair because Senator Sullivan's been back in the state and we have not been able to update him, but we're looking at hotlining a couple more appropriations bills in the next couple weeks, and one of them is the labor HHS bill. And so I don't know how closely you were following this, I assume closely, but in the Senate appropriations bill, there was a $50 million increase, which I know is not a lot when you split it among the nation, but still is an increase in special education funding and in Title 1A, which I think is the other one you cited. And so in the appropriations bill that they're hotlining, which is a conference, and the House cut it, both of those. In the conference bill, which we're hoping to take a look at passing, we also do increase it as well. And I forget the exact numbers. I was just looking to see if I could pull it up real quick, but I can't find it off the top of my head. So it is something that is a really big deal, and we're watching it closely, and certainly don't necessarily support cuts as this reorganization is occurring.
So thank you, Sarah, who does great work for me, not just on healthcare, but on education, as you can tell. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sullivan,
Thanks,
and thank you
Robin.
for your service.
Yeah, thank you too.
All right, with that, it's time for us to bring it to a close, but I have a couple of comments for you. Senator,
Mr.
we're
Mayor,
definitely ready to work with you.
Mr. Mayor, sorry to interrupt. We're not going to hear from Bob to ask him have him ask a question to Helen.
He has not asked any questions. He's been very quiet.
I'm still a little bit shy up here, but thank you.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Your daughter's doing a great job. Hopefully you can see her on the screen.
Yeah, well, maybe we ought to talk about that later. No, in seriousness, his learning curves have been really high on this. And with that, we would like to work with you with the Coast Guard. We have an outstanding opportunity. I know the staff today has talked with Sherry and, strongly about and in terms of what we got. And I think I can say for the Assembly, we believe we have a very strong, dedicated, professional group here that wants to move these things forward, all these things that we've been talking about. And so, and then last, I was the chair with the Alaska Municipal League looking at energy and natural resources in Alaska. And many of the things that you've talked about tonight were in our proposals to move forward. That's been about 8 years ago. And I can tell you, you've hit at least half of them in the bill that are going to, I think, I can say from the Alaska Municipal League and from all the boroughs in Alaska that we were all in favor of moving forward. And so that we very much appreciate. And last, I had an opportunity to go back and look at some of the sausage that was made and some of the work you've done, and you and Senator Murkowski. I know we didn't win everything, but I've been absolutely impressed at what you've been able to move forward, and thank you.
Well,
And with
Mr. Mayor,
that,
thank
go
you. Thank you
ahead.
very much. And by the way, one of the things that we're already working with some communities, you know, I was in Wrangell a couple weeks ago and they had this big idea on the port and other things. So if you guys have specific ideas, particularly as it relates to the Coast Guard and, you know, infrastructure that might be needed or the ability to home port another cutter, you know, let us know. This is exactly the kind of thing we need to start working together on. I'm literally meeting with the Commandant of the Coast Guard and the Secretary of Homeland Security tomorrow morning on some of this stuff. But we get good ideas from the communities. You guys, in a lot of ways, have a better sense of, hey, this cutter could work here and we could use infrastructure here. Feed that to us because it's exciting and it's moving fast. And when I showed you those Coast Guard numbers, I mean, holy cow, I don't think any state's going to do better than we are on those giant numbers. That's the biggest investment in American history in our Coast Guard. And I'm really focused on having Alaska take advantage of it, but we need your guys' good ideas.
We will supply them, and I think we've started that today. Our staff has some really good ideas to move this forward, and I think we have an outstanding place to be able to do this. So yes, we will definitely be in contact. Thank you.
Great. Good. Well, thanks again, everybody, and keep up the great work. We appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. Well, more than a few words, but hopefully you follow up with us and Helen and Sherry and Sarah on all this, and we look forward to working with you on these big things. And congrats to all the new the mayor and the new assembly members. I really look forward to working closely with all of you.
Okay, thank you, Senator. And have a good
Good night,
evening. after
everybody.
that. Okay. And with that, before I move into the main part of the agenda, I'm going to recess. Let's take a 5-minute break. That we're on the agenda. The first public hearing is ordinance 2025-14, an ordinance amending the official zoning map for Service Area 1 of the Petersburg Borough 2-1 rezone with a condition precedent government lot 21, parcel number 01-010-430 from open space recreational to single family and home, and 2, to rezone lot 4, block A, Skylark 2 subdivision, plat number 90-14, parcel number 01-010-243 from single family residential to open space, recreational, and government lot 13 from public use to open space, recreational. Any public testimony regarding ordinance 2025-14 should be given at this time. Do we have anybody that wants to talk to that? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to move on with the second public hearing. It's ordinance number 2025-15, an ordinance of the Petersburg Borough adjusting the fiscal year 2026 budget for known changes. Any public testimony regarding ordinance 2025-15 should be given at this time. And a copy of the ordinance is found online and is part of the record. Is there anybody that wants to talk to the known changes in funding? Again, seeing none, I'll move on. Tonight, there's I think one bid award, freezer floor repair, Mountain View Manor Elderly Housing intent to award. Mountain View Manor Director Lopez requests approval to award the Elderly Housing Freezer Floor Repair project to Steelhead Enterprises in an amount not to exceed $40,000. A memo from Director Lopez with the bidder information for the November 7th, 2025 bid opening is attached to the meeting packet. Do I have a motion to approve that award?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Member Stanton Gregor, second by Member Miucci. Discussion. Okay, hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Member Schwartz,
Yes.
Member Mucci,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Martin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanton Greger,
Yes.
Mayor Lynn.
Yes. Okay, with that, it passes unanimously. Moving on to the next item, persons to be heard related to the agenda. Is there anybody tonight that wants to talk about items on tonight's agenda? That's I don't see anybody raising their hand, so I'll move on to persons. Okay, yeah, I'll be, just give me a minute to move on, then yes.
Okay.
Okay, then now we're looking to persons to be heard unrelated to the agenda. And so you're on, Judy.
I just want to always talk in the right place.
Yeah.
Judy Omer, and again, about the towers, I just wanted to give a quick update that the issue hasn't seemed to go away with anybody I've talked with. And what we're still doing is continuing to collect signatures, and we will keep doing that. Just saying, we want to keep the towers in the safest areas they can be if the towers are determined to come in here. And we want to keep them away from childcare centers and assisted living facilities, schools, neighborhoods, one of which is Papke's Landing, hoping to relocate that by some kind of trade of the borough or whatever, so they're not right smack in the middle of houses where one house is like 50 feet away from where the tower will be. It's dangerous. The newspaper here in Petersburg carried the story about Wrangel's planning and zoning meeting. Jackie and I attended that by Zoom, and it was phenomenal what they were able to accomplish in working together. And I'm hoping that Petersburg can take some inspiration from that and do something wonderful in this town too. Micah Klein was interviewed by a reporter from KFSK, so something should be coming out from that. Janine Gibbons spoke before the Tlingit Haida Council about her concerns, some specific to Papke's and the sacredness of that land, and some of the environmental concerns and that kind of thing, but just overall about what towers can do to people and other living things. Erica Warhatch, who had to leave earlier tonight to be with her mom, secured the library for a meeting this Thursday night at 6 o'clock, and was grateful to hear that that it's back on your agenda. Maybe there's a work session, maybe there's something, but the citizens, the residences wanted to get together and learn more about where we are in this process, what we've learned in the last month or so that more of us have been aware of what's going on, and to see how we can work with you, the elected officials, on supporting safety as we go forward in Petersburg. I've been fielding more calls from people who are just learning that the towers are even in play in Petersburg. So I've spent the last 2 weeks, or since I've been here before, I did speak at the planning and zoning meeting here in Petersburg, but also in kind of research and reflection, looking at putting together a report on building materials and installation to shield people from the towers that live in proximity, and what would be best for our contractors and best for our home builders. I know that the question of lawsuits came up last time we talked, and I'm not sure what the exact fear about those lawsuits were, but I've been being asked about lawsuits should the towers go in terms of the health risks that are being reported. And then the other thing is I'm just kind of looking at the $50 million grant itself. And I spent 20 years working in Washington, D.C., chairing grant and contract review committees, and not on this subject, specifically, but just taking that big number and wondering how it could have been used really in more benefit to the people here. I mean, like if they had used that 50 million to build homes across southeastern Alaska for people who didn't have them, and then gift them Starlink, might have been, as we're looking at it now, a better solution. I know that's not what the grant is. So I'll close now so other people can share whose faces haven't been up before the borough already. Thank you so much for your work on this and other things. Really appreciate the effort that goes into it.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anybody else that would like to talk? Please come forward, state your name and who you represent.
My name is Jackie Tyson, and I'm also here talking about the cell towers. And I know that Haynes and Rangel are fighting hard, and so is Sitka, because like in Sitka, they want to just put all along the road system a huge amount of cell towers. And it's like the spacing it's like good for like 2 miles. So it's just overkill. And to me, it's like Mr. Cropley is placing these anywhere that he can. And I think we need to be like this poor fellow over here just got the big shock of his life. It's something that I'd like to have like a work session or something like that, where we just specifically address this issue and come up with something that possibly that could benefit all of us. Because, for example, I talked to Mr. Cropley about, well, what kind of tower are you putting in my property, on the property across from me? He said, I'm putting one of those, just the tower, and he was just going to put a GCI antenna on it. Then I talked to him yesterday, and it changed completely, and he didn't even know what he was talking about. He said, well, it's going to be a lattice tower, and it might be 130 to 180 feet tall. It might even be taller than that. And I'm going, I'm just freaking out. You know, that's why I would like to, I had my notes, but my cell phone erased everything, and I'm sorry. So could we at least address this in the future next time and come up with a better plan for Southeast Alaska?
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to talk to? Please come forward, state your name and who you represent.
Hi, my name's Tom Kowalski, and I'm a resident here in Petersburg. I own a property on Cornelius up at the top. And this past Saturday, I heard some construction noise on the next road over, Mill Road, right behind my house, and curious to see if somebody's building another home. Homes have been going up there. Last couple of years, 2 homes have gone up, and it's nice to see development out there, and went out there and come to find out they're building a cell phone tower. It's 250 feet from my property. I looked into it a little bit. I found out that these cell phone towers pretty massive. It's a muskeg. All the trees there are stunted. The hemlocks and spruce trees, the tallest one maybe 70 feet tall. This thing's supposed to be 150 foot tall that they're building. And I was shocked. I had no idea this was coming. And yeah, maybe I live under a rock. A lot of us here do. That's why we live here. But I got no notification. I had no idea what's going on. I still don't know what it is. I just found out about it. I have a lot of work to do. But anyway, they've started work on this project already. And I'm a little bit frazzled by the whole situation to start with, mostly because I don't know anything about it. And that's something that I'd like to find out from not just me doing my own homework, but when we discuss this in the future, that we know what we're talking about. The little bit of research I did, it's mostly negative. I found out that there are health issues involved in these things. Cell phone towers now, they put out a lot of power, and some of it's a type of radiation, and the further away from the towers you go, the better you are. But when you're within a certain distance from that tower, you live there, and we have an elderly living in our house. There are people that are prone to the effects of these things. Still, it's not all that well understood. But the more I thought about it, and the more I looked into it, the more I realized that this is mostly, it's an eyesore. Once this thing goes up, it's going to be an eyesore. You're going to see this thing, it's going to smack you in the face. Every time you drive up that street and go to your house, if you live there, you're going to see this thing. And you know, one of probably the most common comments I have heard from people that come and visit or come to move here is that the beauty, the scenery here is unmatched. And that's one of the comments I hear more than anything. And this isn't the only tower. I think there's 3 of them going up. What this is going to do to property values out there, it's going to decrease property values. There is fear, there is real fear, whether or not it's justified. It's fear, it's out there, it's alive, and if I try to sell my house, it's not going to sell like it would without this fear hindering it. I'm not the only one. There's plenty of properties out there that are either in the process of being sold or going to be on the market. It's a road, there's power, there's water, and it's a place where development has been going on and there's a future there for further development. But once that tower gets put up, it's going to be very difficult. I want to mention that and bring up the fact that there will need to be some sort of financial reconciliation when that tower goes up. If somebody wants to try to sell their home. Lawsuits are very common. There's a precedent, and there's a big precedent. There's some here in Alaska, and specifically in Southeast Alaska. Towers, I don't know for sure, but I've heard that there are towers that have been put up and taken down. I do believe there are some locations for these towers that are better aesthetically, better for health, and just better for the community. And I don't know if we can stop that project from happening and work on getting it moved, but you know, I have a few more things to say, but I'll wait until next time. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Yep. Thank you for your testimony. On on that tower on Mill Road, and Liz, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they have all the permits and everything and can go into construction. Thank you for your testimony.
GCI or is it time?
Liz, would you address that, please?
Through the mayor, it's Tidal Networks.
Hi, I'm Heather O'Neill, representing myself. Petersburg has in many places, where there are different zones that are mixed, residential lots, next to commercial lots, and et cetera. In many ways, that's part of what I find charming about our little community. But to keep it that way, I think we should proceed with caution. We also have many codes and ordinances that were written long ago that are still on the books, have not been updated, and didn't keep up with today's present technology. And so they're just not adequate anymore. Industrial lots and commercial lots 2 are allowed commercial radio and television transmitters or towers. That's a quote from our codes. Well, is a radio wave the same as a microwave? Like the cell towers put up? I don't know. But when it was written we all didn't have cell phones. Also, in service area 1, that is zoned rural residential, you can erect things or build things or engage in activities that fall under required essential services, which is what I think Tidal Towers wanted to use when they tried to when they talked about putting a tower up behind the McCullums, behind me, the neighbors on the S-curves. So also, I think that when that language was put in, things like cell towers were not foreseen. And I don't think it's appropriate. Those are rural residential lots. There are homes. And due to a lot of opposition, that tower was, I believe, squashed. because it would have come before the planning commission had they wanted to go forward with that tower. And so I think that one's been set aside and maybe they're looking for a different property. Outside of Area 1, you got the folks that aren't zoned. And so it's kind of like anything goes. And they don't know what's coming down the line and they're afraid of it, what it could be. So I believe that the community of Petersburg to have a say in what and where these controversial towers are placed. Like how close to homes can they be placed? Like you were saying, the tower that's going up next to my property on Mill Road, that's very close to you. And I've been told that it's a quarter mile is probably the safest distance if there's a safe distance. So there's a lot. I wish that you would have a town hall meeting to discuss this with people so that we could kind of maybe come to a consensus like, okay, this tower shouldn't be within a quarter mile of a place where are homes, schools, hospitals, and the such. You are the only body that can change codes or ordinances. So I'm calling upon you to look into this, update the language in our codes and ordinances and make it specific what can and can't be put where and define, these towers. Because I really don't think commercial radio and television transmitters or towers equals cell towers, and especially the cell towers that are coming down the line, quite possibly. So thank you very much for all the work you do on this and how many times you've had to listen to me. But I do appreciate you and this opportunity to have my say. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anybody else that would like to talk on items unrelated? I'll give you, just a couple minutes and I do need to move on tonight. Thank you.
I have this book that I've ordered and I've got one coming for the library and I've got one coming for the assembly. And in it, it talks about the electromagnetic radiation that attacks people. And I want you to know, especially that going down Muckluck Lane, the trooper in your house is just at that 1/4 mile limit. And it's very unnerving to speak with Chris Cropley, and he doesn't even know what he's talking about. So I'll really enjoy talking with her to find out maybe she doesn't have anything to do with it because it's out of town.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to talk to things unrelated to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that's under board, commission, and committee reports. And with that, SEPA, we have a SEPA update, and I believe since Mr. Hegerman and I attended those meetings, I'll let Mr. Hegerman talk about the update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on October 30th, SEPA did have a regular board meeting. These are the highlights from that meeting. The contract for the Tyee third turbine equipment was issued in June 2025. The board discussed 2 change orders, and both of those were approved at the October meeting. Those change orders involved the addition of generator panels to the contract that were originally planned to be supplied during the construction phase, and also the supply of a hydraulic pressure unit motor starter cabinet. Both these change orders allow the equipment supply contractor to maintain efficiency and continuity when integrating the generating equipment with ancillary equipment that will be part of the total project. All changes fell within the board-approved contract contingency at this time. The board also discussed funding options for the overall Tyee third turbine project. Since SEPA does not have full funding at the present time, several options were discussed, including the use of prospective grant funds and tax credits and potential debt financing. The board ultimately authorized the CEO to seek financing proposals with a focus on ensuring timely project completion and flexible terms. when combined with the various grants that are still in the funding stack. The board approved a change to the budget that purchased 2 turbine air coolers, 1 for each project site. These purchases are the start of an ongoing project to replace all of the original air coolers at the Swan and Tyee projects, of which there are 8 total at each facility. The significance of improving the cooling of the turbine windings should be seen in improved efficiency of the turbines that will allow higher outputs while controlling winding temperatures. The board was presented a draft budget for FY 2026 and will consider its adoption at the December meeting. And lastly, the board completed the performance evaluation of the CEO and directed the chair and the treasurer discuss compensation with our Chief Executive Officer. CEO continues to perform at a very high level and to the benefit of all member communities. That's the report.
Thank you, Mr. Hagerman. Any questions for Mr. Hagerman on it? All righty, I'll move on to the mayor's report. The first item under the mayor's report is the housing work session. The Assembly and Borough staff will hold a work session on January 7th, 2026, I guess I should say, Becky, at noon to discuss housing solutions in Petersburg. The purpose of this session is to review current plans and projects and determine whether additional actions or new plans are necessary to address housing needs. Second is seeking letters of interest. Petersburg Borough is accepting letters of interest for citizens who wish to serve the community by filling 1 vacancy on the Public Service Advisory Board until the October 2026 municipal election. Letters of interest should be submitted to the clerk at the borough offices located at 12 South Nordic Drive by sending to P.O. Box 329, Petersburg, Alaska 99833, or by emailing to bregula@petersburgak.gov. Happy Thanksgiving. The Borough Assembly wishes everyone a happy and healthy Thanksgiving holiday. May we all remember and cherish what we're thankful for in our lives. Last item, the Chamber Tree Lighting Event. The Chamber of Commerce will be hosting the tree lighting event on Friday, November 28th in the municipal building parking lot. The event begins with food vendors on Nordic Drive at 5 p.m. Parade lineup with candles between IGA and the Petersburg properties at 5:15 p.m. and the parade kickoff at 5:30 p.m. Come and enjoy the fun with us. And with that, moving on, the manager isn't here tonight. His report is in the package, and I'll not read it tonight, but anybody that's interested can go back and read that report. Moving on to unfinished business. Under unfinished business, an ordinance amending the official zoning maps for Service Area 1 of the Petersburg Borough to 1 rezone with a condition precedent, Government Lot 21 from open space recreational to single-family mobile home, and to rezone Lot 4, Block A, Skylark 2 subdivision from single-family residential to open space recreational, and Government Lot 13 from public use to open space recreational. This is a second reading. If adopted in 3 readings, ordinance 2025-14 will rezone the above parcels in connection with the sale of Government Lot 21 to Skylark LLC under Resolution 2025-20. The rezoning to Government Lot 21 is to allow for the planned development. The rezoning of Lot 4 and Government Lot 13 is to create open recreational space adjacent to the planned development. The condition precedent to the rezone of Lot 21 is the completion of sale to Skylark Park LLC. If the sale is not timely completed, Government Lot 21 would maintain in its current zoning. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Been moved by Member Valentine, seconded by Member Schwartz. Discussion. Okay, hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Member Mucci,
Yes.
Member Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Lynn,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Martin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stengregor.
Yes.
Thank you, and that passes unanimously with the Assembly. Next item is ordinance 2025-15, an ordinance of the Petersburg Borough adjusting the fiscal year 2026 budget for known changes. Second reading. If approved in 3 readings, this supplemental budget would make changes to the following funds. Close out Fund 745 Auto Meter Reading Capital Project by transferring the remaining $15,901.75 to Fund 763, the Electric Grid Resiliency Capital Project Fund. Budget $78,000 in revenues from PIA for the Banana Point Breakwater Improvement Project per Resolution 2025-21. Budget $66,000 for engineering expenses in the wastewater fund, not to exceed $66,000 for time and material to prepare bid-ready documents for repairs to the outfall pipe in Frederick Sound. Budget $25,000 in the wastewater fund to purchase one replacement viable frequency drive due to failure of the existing unit at Pump Station 5 and rebuild the 2 failed variable frequency drive pumps to service as backup units for future operational needs. A member from Director Morol regarding the VFDs is attached. Last, budget $195,000 in expenses for new light poles for the downtown street light project. $195,000 in cash is already reserved in this capital project fund for this purpose. Ordinance 2025-15 was unanimously approved in the first reading. Do I have a motion to approve these adjustments?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been been motioned by Member Mucci, a second by Member Valentine. Discussion.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move to make an amendment. I would move to budget an additional $11,000 from the Parks and Recreation Repair and Maintenance Fund to cover repairs to the bleacher roof and dugout at the Mort Fryer ball field that was damaged in the September 2026-2025 windstorm.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Been moved by Member Stanton Greger, second by Member Mucci. Discussion. Member Mucci.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to vote on this. You know, we have this packet of information that's gone through the budget process, and it's always disconcerting for me to come in the evening or whenever the meeting and to look at another budget line item request to make sure that this, and I'm sure it has, but to make sure that this request has gone through the same vetting process that is before us on ordinance 2025-15. That's one of my concerns. The other concern is on a project like this, do we just sole source this project, or do we, since it's $11,000, do we put an RFP together? Or is this something that we can, I want to make sure that the borough manager has signed off on all this stuff before I included this 11,000 into this budget amendment. So that's my questions, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll pass that back to Director.
Thank you very much, through the mayor. So when a project is estimated to come in under $30,000, then we do not have to go out for additional bids. So we have spoken with Manager Giesbrecht about this. This was how it was suggested to proceed, is to go ahead and ask for the $11,000 to be added to our Parks and Recreation Repairs and Maintenance Fund. And then we will go ahead move forward with the contractor to get all of this stabilized. The big push to get it done right now is because, as you can see in those pictures, the roof over the bleachers is leaning back. And if that accumulates any kind of a snow load, it's going to take it down and cause more damage to the area itself. And that way we can get these things taken care of before it becomes an even more dangerous situation. And so that's why we're unfortunately trying to jump in on the second reading, which we apologize for, but all of this information has just kind of come to us not that long ago in ways we've been trying to figure out how to take care of it in other ways, but those other ways have failed. So here we are today.
Does that answer your question, Member Mucci?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Member Valentine.
To Stephanie over there. Is this just to replace this existing structure? So 11,000 is going to do this, or is there going to be kind of more renovations than we're seeing here?
There is a plan for more renovations up there. As we all know, the ball field needs so much love. But this is just to at least secure these two buildings, the dugout and the bleachers, the cover over the bleachers. That's just for that. We will seek more funding elsewhere for the other renovations and work with the ball field or the Petersburg Little League for that.
Member Schwartz.
I'm just curious, how did you come up with 11,000? Is that materials and then labor or?
It is, yes, correct. We received one quote so far that was put out, a request was put out for bids. We received one. Actually, Becky Turlin with Petersburg Little League received one, and that is the number of that one.
Is the bidding, sorry,
Go ahead.
is the bidding still open or is it done? So
well-
it could come in less.
Somebody could come in less, and that would be great if we could do that, which is kind of, then it throws everything off. I just heard from Becky the other day that they might be hearing from a few more, but which is always great. The more bids we can get in, the better. But at the time, she had only received one. And so we need to move forward. Unfortunately, the snow is already flying as we looked at our windows today. So just trying to move forward and get it done in as good of a fiscally responsible way as we can.
Member Mucci, I think you had another question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that.
Sure.
I probably will be voting no on this. I mean, I think there's some potential to do some other projects up here with this dugout and this bleacher. And I want to make sure that as we're doing it, that we're not just spending $11,000 to stand these two pieces up. I know it's a private, or the Little League kind of runs the area there, but I don't want to spend $11,000 on a project that, and I respect everybody who's been working on this, but I want to make sure that that $11,000 is going to be the right fit for that. And I'm concerned that if we don't have any bid documents to do this project, and we expect other people to kind of know that it's happening, I think it puts local contractors in town at a disadvantage of not knowing that this project's out there. So I just want to make sure, I'm going to vote no on it. I don't like the way the process is going. I know we need it, but I'm just 1 of 6, so I'm going to vote against it. Thank you.
Member
Mr.
Valentine.
Kind of riding off of what he said, just a couple questions. So for the public, this dugout is currently at the field in which the high school uses, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then the second thing, to kind of run off of what Assembly Mucci was saying, could that money also be allocated for a larger project as a whole instead of maybe just a repair? Or, I think, yeah, that's my question.
Okay. Is that a larger project for up at the ball field or a larger project in general? Because I have lots of projects at Parks and Recreation. I just saying.
Okay.
So is that what you're asking it for?
Yeah.
Specifically at the ball field?
Specifically right here. Yes and no, right?
Yes,
I'm
yes,
thinking the
correct.
same.
Yes and
Okay.
no.
Mhm.
I wish that it could do more, but unfortunately, the prices of materials and things are just skyrocketing everywhere around us, and it's sad to see that something like this would cost that much.
Do you happen to know when the high school baseball season starts?
I do not.
Okay, and then
April.
April, and then would this be done before then? At
That
least
is-
that's the hope.
That is the hope, and especially for the situation with the roof over the bleachers. Again, that's a time-sensitive one. If it catches a snow load, it's a decent snow load, it will likely take that down and cause more damage.
Yeah, I think
Member Stan Gregor.
Yeah, thanks. I'm definitely voting yes. This is a project that needs to get done. In terms of bigger picture ball field stuff, I think that's broader discussion. I do not like selling fear. That is not in my nature, so I'm speaking deliberately. No, it's a place where kids play. We got to get that fixed. The snow will come, I mean, that thing collapses. Kids play up there all the time in the winter. It's again, using my words deliberately, it is a very imminent and acute project. And as the director said, for things under 30,000, we can streamline it. It's not a much easier process, and I'm glad you brought it before us. And I'll be voting yes on this amendment for those reasons.
Any other comments from Assembly? I think I've also been told that we looked at it would be covered by insurance, but it could not be into that. Am I correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And Manager Giesbrecht was connecting with Petersburg Wrangell Insurance to see how that can be remedied. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And with that, oh, go ahead, Bob. I'm
I'm
sorry.
not quite sure how this works, but is there a way to vote yes, kind of as a placeholder for the 11,000, but who would that be in Parks and Rec's hands after that, once the budget passes, as far as how it gets spent?
The way that'll work, if the vote yes is that to go forward, then that gives Stephanie the charge to, move forward however they decide. We haven't picked, she has a proposal for us for $11,000. And I don't think there was in there exactly how she was going to do it.
Correct.
And so that's where it would be, but it would be to allow it to go forward at that point.
Can I add a brief point of information,
Sure.
Mr. Mayor? Member Martin and Clerk Regula, as always, correct me if I'm missing. Since this is an ordinance, it'll have another 2 weeks before another reading. So I suppose in theory, if some other bid came in lower than that before the final reading, it could be re-amended, I suppose, technically speaking, just as a data point.
Just knowing that, is it possible we could wait till the third reading to do this? Is there any harm in that?
No, it could be done. But do you see, I guess the question I would have is, do you see any changes between now and 2 weeks from now?
If we do get a cheaper bid, yeah, I think that could change things. And we could come in at a lower rate. That would be splendid.
Member Mucci?
Sure, which brings me to my point is how do we figure out if we're gonna get a cheaper rate? I mean, do we advertise that the borough wants to do this? And we have a list of supplies and lumber that it's gonna cost to do this, and we put that out there? Or how does the community know that we're looking for somebody to do this? That's kind of my question. Thank you.
You'd like me to
Go
answer
ahead.
that? Okay. Again, we have, according to Ms. Turlin, we do have some other bids. She is hoping to get a couple more bids in. So that's where we're at.
Okay.
This is our bid that we have right now. She's got it out there to a couple of more contractors, and I've come across this. You put it out, you ask contractors, and it's like radio silence. And that is what unfortunately has happened with her. And so we got this bid, but just recently she told me she had a couple more bids hopefully to come.
Okay.
So we're hoping for those, but if not, we at least have one bid to move forward with.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any more questions from the Assembly? If not, would the clerk please call the roll on the amendment?
Vice Mayor Stanton Greger,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Martin, Member Schwartz,
Yes.
Member Mucci,
No.
Mayor Lynn.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes 5-1 with Member Mucci voting no on it. And with that, we're back to the main motion that's on the table, and that is to approve the changes, known changes in the budget for fiscal year 2025. And with that, would the clerk please call the roll on the main motion?
Mayor Lynn,
Yes.
Member Schwartz,
Yes.
Member Mucci,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Martin, Vice Mayor Stanton Greger.
Yes.
That passes unanimously. From there, I'll move on to new business. Under new business, ordinance 2025-16, an ordinance amending chapter 4.04 of the municipal code entitling purchasing to update bid and proposal submission procedures. This is the first reading. If approved in 3 readings, ordinance 2025-16 will amend chapter 4.04 of the municipal code to modernize and clarify the borough's purchasing requirements by allowing electronic submission of responses to invitations to bid and requests for proposals. Do I have a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, been moved by Member Mucci, second by Member Valentine. Discussion. Being none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Member Schwartz,
Yes.
Member Mucci,
Yes.
Mayor Lynn,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Martin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanton Greger.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Then that passes unanimously. We'll move on to the appointment to the Southeast Alaska Power Authority Board of Directors for 2026 of one voting member and one alternate. We have 3 people who have put into for this proposal, myself being one of them. And with the Assembly's approval, I would like to appoint myself as the voting member back to SEPA, with Carl Hegerman for the first 6 months of the year as the alternate, since he plans to retire, and with Stephen Harper as the next 6-month alternate. And the reason from Mr. Hegerman and I discussion is that getting on this board, there's a lot to learn. And so what that would do is it will allow us to do a little bit of education, Mr. Harper, on power sales agreement, all the contracts that are in motion, and the 4R plan, and lots of other things that are in motion. And with the approval of the Assembly, I would allow the 3 of us to go forward. Okay, thank you. I'll move on to the next one. Next item on the agenda is no longer, we will not appoint a vacant board seat under Alaska law. We discovered today that we have a little glitch in our rules, so we'll pass that on. That's a school board decision. With that, the correspondence since October 30th is in the packet. And we'll move on to Assembly discussion items. And I believe the Assembly member comments, but I want to talk about, I think Member Mucci asked for a discussion on tidal networks.
Cell towers, more or less. Yep, is that me? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, as you can see, we have several people in the audience tonight who are still pretty interested in at least some type of discussion, community discussion regarding cell towers. Over the last couple of weeks, when I've been looking into this and chatting with different people, to me, it sounds like there needs to be an updated ordinance within the borough to at least acknowledge cell towers. I mean, I think there's lots of information floating around out there, and I think there's lots of misinformation that could be out there too. And I just don't know how to, I guess, satisfy members of the public who think that the Assembly has done all we can to make sure that we've addressed any kind of health and safety concerns. And if that is the case, perhaps the idea would be to have an updated ordinance inside Service Area 1 to deal with cell phone. And if we're not going to decide anything on it tonight, but if that's something that the Assembly is interested in entertaining, I could see trying to work on an ordinance to kind of maybe focus on cell phone towers within Service Area 1, so we can at least start talking about it. Because from the folks I've talked to, there's a lot of things they'd like to do, and I feel pretty strongly that if I have a piece of private property and I want to sell it to somebody and somebody wants to put something in there and it's not against the zoning ordinances and stuff, that there's not much the borough can do about that. But I think in the meantime, we could look at the ordinance about what is and not acceptable for cell towers and stuff. And maybe it's something as simple as coming up front here with an ordinance to start chewing on and trying to sort it out. Then we maybe can address with maybe some plating authority outside Service Area 1. But yeah, that's kind of where I was going with the cell towers. Thank you.
Member Valentine.
I agree with Member Mucci. After being, on the Assembly now and still pretty much I'm still learning a lot as well. And you see on just one of the last amendments, we're still amending old codes and stuff. And a lot of it, at least from my view, it doesn't come up until it needs to come up, right? And so now we're in a position where there's public outcry, and it stinks to be on this side because at this point, I don't know how much the borough can really do. Now, aside from making an ordinance for future things. It sounds like you guys are making groundwork, which is great. And we hear you loud and clear for sure. And so I think the ordinance is probably the best route we can do. And then having during the last meeting we had here, I believe our manager was saying that it would take a lot to have any kind of a lot of time, excuse me, to have any kind of authority out at Papke's. So we would lose that time frame. The Mill Road sounds like it's already going up, and then the one end, the borough. So the ordinance is I think the best route to go as an assembly to move forward and do our best to appease the public as best we can. So thank you.
Member Schwartz.
Yeah, it sounds like it snuck up on all of us. I mean, I came in from fishing and running a tour business, and it was like, what just happened? For every person here that spoke out with concerns, there's probably 20, 30 other people in the community that are concerned. People have known me to talk a lot. Well, since I got this job, I listen a lot. A lot of people talk to me, and it takes a lot of courage to come to a public meeting and speak your mind. There's a lot of people that are very concerned about this, and whatever we can do, whatever, like James says, whatever we have in our authority or power to do now, we should try to do, just to at least give some people some confidence that we're listening and we're gonna do what we can.
Member Martin.
So after the meeting last time, I was talking to some people, and one of the guys, he had health concerns and other more traditional concerns. And he looked at me, he said, well, what good are you as a borough? What good is a borough, basically? And I kind of been thinking about that the last couple of weeks, and I kind of rethinking the idea of some kind of a meeting. I don't know if the work session format is the right one, but some kind of a meeting to talk about what we can do now, what we can do later. And so I'd be more supportive than I was last time.
Other thoughts? Director Cabrera, I'll let you weigh in on, even if we were to start the change, let's say, on looking at changing zoning in Service Area 1 related to on cell towers and so forth. What are we talking, a minimum of 6 months, a year to get an actual ordinance in place?
Probably at least 6 months, and that's knowing what you want. Currently, we only allow towers in industrial districts and in commercial 1 and commercial 2. And, people are talking about what's happened in Wrangell and what's happened in Sitka. They allow towers in residential districts with conditional use permits. And so those decisions you've seen are them saying no in residential districts. In Petersburg, we wouldn't even consider an application to allow a tower in a residential district. The problem we have is our districts are very mixed together, and people have put houses in, we allow houses in every district, and people have built residences in industrial and commercial districts. If we were to say, just, as you're thinking about this, I'm not telling you what to do, obviously, but just as you're thinking about it, if we were to say we're only going to allow towers in industrial, but they have to be a certain distance from residential, my fear is that we would basically eliminate any tower, which I think would run us afoul with federal law. So, as we move forward, you have to think about that. We're very compact. We have districts that are high intensity and residential right next to each other. And then we have to somehow carve out and be able to pass the red face test that we actually do have places for these towers. And I think that you're going to find it's going to be difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it's going to be difficult to figure that out. So my 2 cents.
And then address outside of Service Area 1, if you will. the discussions we've had about, we're looking 2 to 3 years as a minimum if we were to put something into effect.
Yeah, outside service area one, you're starting from square one. We would need, I think, a lot of public engagement on what the folks out there wanted, what the tipping point is. You want to allow as much as you can, but at what point do you want a use to have to be a conditional use or go to the planning commission? And, where that line gets drawn, that's really driven by the folks that live there. And so that would be a bit of a process to get that input.
And that would include what services? And obviously, that's going to raise the mill rate outside of service area one.
So, yeah, planning and zoning is currently something that outside of service area one is not covered in property taxes, but it is an area-wide power, so it doesn't have to necessarily, I don't think, be a service area, but certainly there's a cost to having that service.
Thank you. Other comments from the assembly? Okay. Hearing none, Member Mucci.
Yeah, thank you. Just a recognition. I had a tour of Power and Light the other day or last week, and Public Works, and it was very informative. I think the most interesting thing I learned is that there's 1.6 billion gallons of water up at the hatchery. And if above the hatchery, and that tsunami warning sign that you see out there, that's not for the wave coming in, that's for the wave coming off the hill. And so it was just very interesting. Power and Light, you walk into the place, you could eat off the floor. It seems to be run, Public Works same way. I'm sure all the departments, same kind of examples, but it was just really interesting to me to see all that stuff and spend some time with the department heads and employees. I just wanted to say thank you publicly.
Thank you. Any other comments from Member Steenbergen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few recognitions. I'll start from this weekend and work my way back. They're actually all exclusively swim recognitions. One to all the volunteers that go into November Rain. That is a huge event. People come from all over Southeast to swim at that, and it is heavily staffed by volunteers, so a huge thank you to them. Since I've gotten involved in that club, I've learned firsthand just how much professionalism goes into making that thing run smoothly. And then an individual recognition to Mr. Cyrus Hulabeck, who set a new club record by 0.2 seconds, which is pretty cool, in the 400 IM, which is a grueling race. So really happy for him and his family. Then going back a week to the state swim competition, an individual recognition for Mr. Logan Tao, who is state champion in the 100 freestyle, going out on top his last time in the pool as a senior. Pretty cool to see. And then just a general recognition for all the swimmers who went for the Viking, Petersburg Viking swim team, for performing well at state, and some PRs were done and some seniors got to go out feeling really good. So just a general big swim recognition. Thank you.
Any other recognitions? Member Schwartz?
I'll just add to the swim. Take state title in swimming. I coached for a long time, 2A, 3A, and we wrestle against 4A as well. But the swimmers wrestle against all those, or they swim against all those big schools, and a lot of competition. To take an individual state title at that level is quite an accomplishment. So congratulations.
Thank you. Other comments? With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moving to second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned.